All right, shalom, shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shah, Bahasham Rachak, with Aj double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, wherever you may be, shalom, Yasharala, shalom. All right, we get on with Acts chapter 24, okay? So, it says, and after 5 days, Ananias the high priest descended with the elders and with a certain orator named Tertullus, who informed the governor against Paul. All right, so see what Tertullus' names mean. Triple hardened, a Roman orator. All right, well, we should have got it from there, but we get orator as well. It's pretty much straightforward. We know what orator is, right? See, a speaker, an orator, a forensic orator or advocate. Let's pull it up. Forensic orator, orator. Pursues a legal order, exhibition of controversial cases under consideration by the courts, private and public rights. He should try to convince the judges in his favor. They present their views, defending their interests and those of opposites. Origin. It originates in Greece with the best orator, Demosthenes. Roman orator exceeds Greek with Quintiliano and Cicerone. Interesting. Orator forensics. Shortened to OO. Is a competitive event in the National Speech and Debate Association. Factual speech and subject on their choosing. All right, so let's go back. Didn't hang in there too long. Orator, all right. So it says, named Tertullus, who informed the governor against Paul. So it says, and when he was called forth, Tertullus began to accuse him, saying, seeing that by thee we enjoy great quietness, and that very worthy deeds are done unto this nation by thy providence. All right, basically, is what you call ass kissing, man. This is what, like, providence, forethought, providential care to make provision for a thing. Yeah, this is what you call lip service, right? Butt kiss. Let's read AMP. After Paul had been summoned, Tertullus began the complaint against him, saying to the governor, since through you we have attained great peace, you see, and since by your foresight reforms are being carried out for this nation, you see, butt kissing, lip service, right before he goes. The same thing you see going on today, man. Well, you know, because you have these lawyers, all right. Doesn't matter which side the lawyer is for. Both lawyers are butt kissers because they one day want to become judges themselves, and they know a particular power a judge holds, so they want to be butt kissers and things of that nature and kiss up to the judge because they themselves want to be judges one day. So there's no different. Not saying this is what he was aiming for, but the lip service is no different. All right. But Tertullus, he was just giving lip service, so he can, gain a little leeway to state his case. So this is the NLT. Says, when Paul was called in, Tertullus presented the charges against Paul in the following address to the governor. You have provided a long period of peace for us Jews, and with foresight have enacted reforms for us. You see, it says, for all this, your excellency, we are very grateful to you. It's just lip service at the end of the day. Make changes in something typically a social, political, or economic institution or practice in order to improve it. And you have to remember, under the Roman Empire, they were allowed to still do their worship, which is why the gospel was able to be preached, all right? Whatever they wanted to worship, it was all, with those Romans, more about you being in line with their Roman law and you being, paying your taxes and things of that nature, being tributaries, mostly paying your taxes, all right? So that's how the gospel was able to be preached. Right? How do you think Yahushua was able to preach? The Romans were empowered then. Before Yahushua came, who heralded in Yahushua? John the Baptist was the main prophet. Okay, before Yahushua came, was not the Romans empowered then? Of course, he was only 6 months older than Yahushua. Okay, so anyways, it says, for all of this, your excellency, we are very grateful to you. But I don't want to bore you, you see. So please give me your attention for only a moment. We have found this man to be a troublemaker who is constantly stirring up riots among the Jews all over the world. He's a ringleader of the cult known as the Nazarenes. Yeah, the Nazarenes basically talking about those that followed the Messiah, all right, Yahweh Shah. Because you have to remember, you had wicked Pharisees who didn't believe. They believed in the prophecies about a Messiah, but when the Messiah came, all right, they didn't believe that Yahweh Shah was that Messiah of the very same prophecy they believed in, because they knew the law. Okay, they knew the prophecies. But when Yahushua came, they didn't actually believe that he was that Messiah that the law referred to. Okay. So it says, we accept it always and in all places, most noble Felix, with all thankfulness. Notwithstanding that I be not further tedious unto thee, I pray thee that thou wouldest hear us of thy clemency a few words. Let me just get that. Actually, that was the word providence. Clemency. Mildness, gentleness, fairness. All right. So it says, for we have found this man a pestilent fellow. I think that word has come up before. Let's get this. Pestilent fellow. Lemas. Pestilent. A pestilent fellow, pest, plague. All right. So they're basically saying this dude, he's a troublemaker, in other words. All right. He's a problem. He's the mosquito in the summertime. All right. He's the gnat in the cool of the day. So it's, I don't know. I think those gnats are worse than the mosquitoes, but you get, I'm just, using an example here. All right. This dude's a problem, man. That's what they're saying. And a mover of sedition among all the Jews throughout the world. All right. Now, when it says world here, what is it talking about? All right. The word there is oikumene, but the key thing here says, number two, the Roman Empire, all of the subjects of the empire, because you have to understand Paul, mainly, when you go follow his missionary, which we have been doing, all right, mainly, he preached all over Anatolia, all right, Asia, modern day Turkey, all right, not that's Asia Minor, but uh, modern day Turkey, all right, Anatolia, all right. So he preached all over there. But also remember, he went into other Roman provinces, like northwest, because remember, he went to Corinth. He was found in Athens, Berea, Thessalonica, and places like that. All right. Around, Italy, Greece, or whatnot. All right. Those different areas. So when he says all the world, obviously he's not talking about the whole entire earth. But this is why it's key to understand, which definition that you're using. All right. And right here, this is the one. It says the Roman Empire, all the subjects of the of the empire, because the Romans were in power at the time. So whatever territories he preached in were obviously under Roman control. Okay. Going back. So it says a pestilent fellow and a mover of sedition among all the Jews throughout the world. Now we go into this word sedition many times, especially when we go into Esdras. All right. Strife, insurrection. All right. So basically, because you have to understand, all right, one of the main things about the gospel, which goes right back, you cannot mention your house, right? What do they say? We have no king but Caesar. So because when you're reading this chapter right here, all right, it's a real good idea to put yourself in the through, read this chapter through the eyes of a Roman. All right, I'm talking about a Roman as in an actual heathen. Okay, if they were before, this court, and seeing this Jew against Jew, and hear about their law and so on and so forth, how would you view this, all right, case as a Roman? And it really give you more insight on this chapter here, all right? But yeah, one of the main things about the teaching of the gospel is a Messiah, okay? Yahushua being king over the Jews, right? And so they said we have no king but Caesar. So anybody that wasn't down with this, all right, with the truth I'm talking about, they are the ones who were sticking to the Roman laws and customs, and no king but Caesar, Israelites, and all that, and this, that, and the third thing. Mainly stemming from, as you see here, the wicked Pharisees, right? They were very wicked individuals. They prosecuted, wrongfully Yahweh because they brought lies up against him, and the same thing is happening now. All right. So yeah, when it says a mover of sedition among all the Jews throughout the world, it's talking about all those territories and those Roman provinces that Paul taught the truth to. You see, it says, in a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes, and the sect of the Nazarenes, it just follows Yahweh Shah. All right, because remember Nazareth. Let me see here what's down here. One separated, inhabited Nazareth, a title given to Yahweh Shah in the New Testament, a name, here it is, given to Christians by the Jews. All right. Now, well, I think it was like on Google somewhere. I can't remember where it was. No, if it's true or not, but they claim that they were also known as the Branchites, But it would make sense because, when you're dealing with the branch, who's the branch? Your Yahushua is that branch. There's, quite a few scriptures there dealing with scriptures that say the branch, right? The man whose name is called the branch, right? Let's talk about Yahushua. So I wouldn't doubt. I can't say for sure if they were actually also called branchites, but it would make sense because these are followers of Yahushua, all right? Of the truth, of the way, all right? So it says a name given to Christians by the Jews, okay? And they claim that these sects of the Nazarenes were later called Christians, but we read that earlier in the book of Acts, so can't really line that one up either. Like I said, these scholars are not always right. A lot of times their dates will be on point. Sometimes they might be off a little bit, but certain history and dates and things of that nature, scholars will be on point. But when it goes into the true understanding of the scriptures, the majority of them ain't never got it right. All right. But yeah, this is what that's going into. All right, the sect of the Nazarenes follows Yahushua. Okay, and also, as a matter of fact, let's get this. Where did I just see it? Okay, it was back in the scripture. When you go into the word sect, right? That's very important too. And the word there is heresies. All right, because as we just mentioned, those beginning with those wicked Pharisees, they hated Yahushua and they hated those that follow, the teaching of Yahushua. All right. So basically, if you weren't following them and listening to them and so on and so forth, pretty much praising and worshiping them, all right, and you followed Yahushua, okay, they will basically deem you as an heretic, okay. I'm looking for, let's do this. And those are all those different, it says a body of men following their own tenets, sect, or party. Of the Sadducees, which we talked about, bug outs. Of the Pharisees, knew the truth, knew the right way, but they just didn't want to do it themselves, all right? And of the Christians, which the true Christians are the Jews of the southern kingdom, all right? And those are the followers of Yahushua, all right? They were called Christians first at Antioch. So when you pull up this word sect here, is very important. It says a group of people with somewhat different religious beliefs, typically regarded as heretical, you see, from those of a larger group to which they belong. So this pretty much summarizes what we're talking about here. They were all Jews, and the hierarchy there was these high priests, all right, wicked Pharisees, okay, which obviously Levites, all right, if they were priests, high priests and stuff like that. So we were all Jews, all right, but those among us who believed in the truth, which is through Yahushua, were deemed as heretics, okay, because we believe the truth and they were opposing the truth. Let's read it again so you can get more understanding. A group of people with somewhat different religious beliefs, right? Where'd this thing come up from? I didn't even hit the button. A group of people with somewhat different religious beliefs, typically regarded as heretical from those of a larger group. Who's the larger group? Those that follow the wicked Pharisees. All right, to which they belong, because we all belong to being Israelites. All right, but there were faithful believers of Yahushua, and then there was the larger group, which were under the Pharisees. You see, the scribes and the Pharisees. So when they get this word heretical, it says believing in or practicing religious heresy. All right, holding an opinion at odds with what is generally accepted. And that's the key thing there. What is generally accepted is we're the Pharisees. We'll tell you what to do. We'll tell you what not to do. We'll tell you about the laws, but we can do whatever we want. Now, of course, they're not saying that part out loud. They're not going to say the quiet part out loud, but that's basically what they were about. All right. And so you would be called a heretic because you weren't, kissing their asses, so to speak. All right. Belief or opinion contrary to Orthodox religious, especially Christian doctrine. You see? So they use that in a modern day term, but when you go back to the ancient times, that's what's important. And it also says a philosophical or political group, especially one regarded as extreme or dangerous. And that's a beautiful thing too. Because, well, not beautiful, but that's the thing though. When you deal with real time, that's exactly how Esau is going to come down upon us, man. The same thing that's happening to Paul, to Antipas, to Stephen, to Peter, which they got Peter later, but the first account they didn't get Peter. He they got busted out by an angel. And they got James the Greater, the brother of John the Revelator, and so many more. All right, individuals. They're going to come down the same way like they came on Yahushua. And the scriptures tell us that the servant is not greater than his master. Let's see if I can pull that up. Not greater than his Master. Giving us a bunch of ones. Let me see here. All right, John 13:16. Most assuredly I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is he who sent greater than he who sent him. And here's the one I really wanted, John 15:20. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they kept my word, they will keep yours also. You see? So when you go back over here, all right, to where I think we left from that. But it's okay. From dealing with the sex, right? Esau is going to come down on us the same way, all right, in these latter days, all right? Let me get this real quick. Revelation 2:10, fear none of these things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. So that's what's going to happen in these latter days, because it's already written. We're already told that some of us, all of us are going to be persecuted. We have to become pilgrims, but some of us are actually going to get caught and, put to death, be beheaded, like it says in Revelation 24. And America does have guillotines, okay? And these devils can invoke some kind of law, all right, to bring that judgment down upon us, and no one's going to have anything to say. One, for one, because they're going to be the hammer, and two, they're going to paint us in a light where where it makes them look like they're doing justice against us, right, for believing in righteousness. You see? And so let me get one more before we go back. Get Luke 21, and here it is, 12. But before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you unto the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And if you go up there, you get that red letter. What is that? That's Yahushua. All right? Prophesying. You see? Being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. Being brought before, the judge in the court system, being brought before the governor, being brought before maybe a state, being brought before maybe a federal case, all right? Might even, being brought before, some letter, president, politicians. You might ever, probably, maybe not, probably even get to meet one of those banking families. Whoever they bring you before, this is bound to happen to us. It's written in the scriptures. It's prophesied out of the mouth of the Savior. So we know that this is going to come to pass, man. But that's why it's important, as we always talk about, your faith, man. All right? Yeah, keep their faith. It says, but before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into the prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. All right, let's get the word testimony. Martyrion. Okay? Testimony, which believes it goes back to martyr or martis. Here it is right there, martis. All right? A witness in a legal sense, in a historical sense, one who is a spectator of anything. In ethical sense, those who after his example have proved the strength and genuineness of their faith, you see, as we just mentioned, of their faith in the Messiah by undergoing a violent death, and there will not be all of us. Men, women, and children will be put to death, man, for this truth, for what we fight for righteousness, you see? But not all of us, because the Lord is going to have his remnant. And those that are put to death, as the scripture have said, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, the dead in the Messiah shall rise first. There's no stopping the elect members, right? The Lord's elect, man, because it's already written, man. Whatever's written is the words of the Lord, and we have to watch them come into fruition, which is called prophecy. You see? So there's no stopping the truth, man. It's already written. We just got to hold on. He that endured unto the end, the same shall be saved. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. Settle it therefore in your hearts, which is your mind, not to meditate before what ye shall answer. Yeah, because we're going to probably be, even if we're not scared, you might be nervous. You might be pissed off and angry. All right. But the Lord is going to give you what to say. All right. Just like he did with Yahushua, man. Thou sayest. Who told you this? You came up with that on your own, or they told you that? You see? Whatever's necessary for us to say before whoever we're in front of, the Lord's going to give us that speech. Settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before what ye shall answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom. See, I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not do what? Be able to gainsay nor resist. And just like Paul, All right, even as we spoke of, even as Yahweh Shah. All right, but we're reading about Paul right now. Which we haven't read it yet, but they had nothing against them, man. Their accusation was that he brought heathens into the temple, which was false because, if I'm correct, those weren't even Gentile Israelites, which those are Jews too, but those were actual Jews of the circumcision. I believe it was a vow. He said, pay for the shaving of the head for the vow and so on and so forth. So he brought, or even if it was Gentile Israelites, the point being that these were all Israelites. These were all Jews, man. Okay. And so they're going to blame him or accuse him of bringing heathens into the temple, which is entirely false because these are Jews. They have rights to the temple. All right. As long as they're going about it the right way. All right. And they don't have anything against them to bar them from that. They have rights to the temple, man. But they're saying, oh, he brought a heathen into the temple. You see? So just like they're accusing Paul with no real substantial evidence against him, they're going to do us the same way. That's why they're laying the groundwork down, because the people are stupid. So they're laying the groundwork now. So when they spring the trap on us, like he says in Revelation 12:12, they're going to come down with great wrath. That's when Isaiah 59:19 is going to kick in. The Lord's going to lift up the standard because they're laying the groundwork now. So when they accuse us of whatever they're going to accuse us of, just like we just mentioned, another example, ancient Roman Empire, as long as you were following their Roman laws and paying your taxes and things of that nature, everything was all peachy keen. and Israelites had a governing of themselves, through their own law, but ultimately everything went back to those Roman laws. But now we coming against a new world order. Okay, so it's going to be no different, man. All right. They're going to say that these people are out of line with what we have planned and they're a danger to you people. And look, we have the evidence here. What's the evidence? It's all over the internet. All these videos we've done. It doesn't matter if you've been here a very long time or a short time. If you've come to this truth, profess that you're an Israelite, profess the name of Yahweh and Yahweh Shah, okay, and taught this truth and woke up of the Israelites, they got evidence on you because it's online. All right. Especially, yeah, man, I hate to say it, but especially for you men who act like you're afraid to go to camp. We don't know about the use of camps. What does it say that we got to go to camp? Man, stop the nonsense, man. Okay, it don't matter. You know what? Because at the end of the day, you made a lesson. All right, you want to hide in the shadows, think you're a keyboard warrior, right? Well, guess what? He got you, man. Okay, he's got that recorded. He's got your IP address and everything. He can come right to your home. He knows where all of us are. He knows where we all reside. You see? He's got lessons on top of lessons. He's got camp days on top of camp days. He has evidence against us, and he has technology to actually, skew and warp our words to make us sound like terrorists, man. So these things are coming down upon us, man. So if your faith is not rooted in Yahweh Yahweh Shah, you will get washed away. Like Yahweh Shah mentioned, what was it, House on the Sand or something like that? Let me read this first. For I will give you, matter of fact, no, let me find it before I forget it, because we can always bounce back. I can't remember exactly how it's worded. House upon, hopefully the blue give it to us. Something like that. I forget exactly how it's worded. Yep, here it is. Matthew 7:26. And everyone that heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them not shall be likened to a foolish man which built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended and the floods came and the winds blew. What's the floods coming in? All right. The troublesome times. Esau and his technology and his foot soldiers, right? And the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. And ultimately, the end of the whole time period is going to be nuclear missiles, right? You're not going to be able to stand against that if you make it through Jacob's trouble. And it came to pass when Yahweh Shah had ended these things, the people were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one having authority and not as the scribes. All right, but really, we just wanted 26 and 20. Actually, we could have read up there. Two foundations. Therefore, because let's get this one, 24. Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man which has built his house upon a rock. You see? Stable, rooted in his truth, man. Understanding what you believe in and understanding what the will of the Lord is, all right? And that stems from your faith, man. Okay? Because this is a life and death right here, man. So it says, and the rain descended and the floods came. And what now? Let me make an example. What if this was based on our faith by actions? We'd be destroyed, because you know how many Israelites are scared to take on this truth, or how many just want to hear that they're we're the real Jews and that's it. How many men don't want to actually come out and teach? If it was based on, man, we're done, because there's just not enough men. All right, the scriptures even talk about that. Pray that the Lord send more laborers or something like that. all right, because the harvest is plenty, but the labors are few. Just roughly paraphrasing, we'd be done if it was based on that. All right. So thank the Lord for the remnant. Okay. It says, and the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. It was founded on faith, rooted in Yahweh, while Yahweh Shah, man. You see? But everyone else who's wishy-washy, willy-nilly, all right, who's not sure, or you're doubting or whatever, hey, you're gonna be out of there, man. Because this is real life. All right, what's happening to Paul and other, apostles and disciples, and what happened to John and Yahushua and whoever you could read about. All right, oh, Jerusalem, that kills the prophets, man. You see, all the men of old, it's going to be no different. And the key thing here is, but the majority of the prophets are back today, and he knows that. All right, he knows that Israel has risen up again to the knowledge of who they are, which marks the beginning of the end of his downfall of his kingdom. So they're going to persecute us because we're the major threat to their new way, their new society and whatnot. So Luke 21:15 to finish off, for I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. And ye shall be betrayed, both by parents and brethren and kinsfolks and friends, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death. And it doesn't mean you should hate your family, but that's why, it's key to not be so attached to your family. And some of us, we don't have a choice but to be around our families, but we're not attached to them. That's the key thing. All right. You may have to be around your family, but you're not attached to them. You're not in their conversations. You're not, going about the way that they're going about things. Okay. And so on and so forth. Because it may very well be your father, your mother, your sister, your brother, your cousin, whoever who gives you over to these authorities, as we read in other scriptures, right? And give you up to, the kings. Well, actually, that's up above, but you get my point, though. Going before these rulers and judges and things of the nature. But the Lord says that he's going to give you a mouth that your adversary should not be able to gainsay or resist. It says, and cause you to be put to death, and ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. You see, all the world is going to get turned against us because Esau has the means and the technology and the false accusations to do so, to make everyone see us like, yeah, they need to be taken out of the way. When honestly, we're the only ones fighting for righteousness, for justice. But that's how Esau is going to paint us, because he's the unjust. See? But it goes on to finish off and say what? But there shall not an hair of your head perish. In your patience possess ye your souls. See? Hey, Yahushua gave us some fire. What's the word I want to use? Encouragement. All right. So let's go back, because he told us the straight skinny, but he also encouraged us that, hey, you all right, man. Don't worry about nothing. Right? Just stay the course. So yeah, we read that. Faithful unto death, and I will give you a crown of life, right? Should we go back? I think it was verse 5. Yep, Acts 24:5. So it says, for we have found this man a pestilent fellow, and a mover of sedition among all Jews throughout the world, and a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes. So this is the same. This scripture right here is the same way they're going to paint us. All right. Now, whether or not they reveal the name of Yahweh and Yahushua, they're still going to link us to some way being against them, and so on and so forth. All right. So they can come down and bring the hammer on us. Okay. He says, who also hath gone about to profane the temple, whom we took and would have judged according to our law. So they're saying, we read that in Acts 21. Let's see if we can find it here. Yep, here we go. Let's start right here at 23. Acts 21:23. Do therefore this that we say to thee, we have 4 men which have a vow on them. Them take and purify thyself with them, and be at charges with them, that they may shave their heads, and all may know that those things whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing. What was the concern? That Paul was saying, whatever with the law, and he wasn't saying that. It's what we're telling you the same thing today. All right, all these decades later, we're telling you the same thing today. It's not that we're telling you to stop doing the laws, because one for one, we can't keep all the laws. But even if you could, for example, you can keep 1,000, and 1,000 laws. You can keep the laws perfectly, But your justification is not going to come through the law. It is through your faith in Yahweh. Even if you could keep the laws perfectly, and there was someone or a group out there who was keeping the laws perfectly, that is not your justification. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter that you keep the laws perfectly. It would be beautiful that you could, but your justification is going to come through your faith in Yahweh. And you actually have people out there who don't believe in the name of Yahweh. You see? So Paul wasn't telling them to do away with the law. He was just saying, he was saying, yeah, keep the law or whatnot to the best of your ability. But it's like I said, the same thing we're telling you today. Your justification, your salvation is going to come through your faith in Yahweh, not through the law. But you should still keep the law, which is why we always mention that from Paul also in Romans at the bottom of that chapter 3, like verse 20-21. Do we then make void the law? God forbid. Yea, we establish the law. So what are you saying? Is Paul contradictory? No. Was Paul lying? Absolutely not. It's just that people lack the understanding, all right, of what he's saying, all right? And he says, I became all things to all men, right? So he had to deal with the circumcision one way and the uncircumcision another way. And this is an example of what he was doing, man, all right? So I can gain them to actually believe in Yahweh, because those that don't believe, they're just not going to believe. But those that believe, those are who I'm concerned with, all right? Inquire how the righteous can be saved, as Ezra's put it, all right? It says, whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing, but that thou thyself also walkest orderly and keepest the law. There you go. As touching the Gentiles which believe, we have written and concluded that they observe no such thing, going back to that decree that they got together and wrote up, save only that they keep themselves from things offered to idols, and from blood, and from strangled, and from fornication. With those things also go back to the law. Then Paul took them in, and the next day purifying. So it shows you how hypocritical the Jews of the circumcision were. All right, because those things go back to the law. But they hated the uncircumcision so much because of the history behind that. We're not going to talk about it now. We've talked about it dozens of times. Then Paul took them in, and the next day purifying himself with them entered into the temple to signify the accomplishment of the days of purification, until that an offering should be offered for every one of them. All right. And then it gets down to this point here. It says, and when the 7 days were almost ended, the Jews which were of Asia, when they saw him in the temple, stirred up all the people and laid hands on him, crying out, Men of Israel, help! This is the man that teacheth all men everywhere against the people and the law in this place, and further brought Greeks also into the temple, and had polluted this holy place. You see, these Greeks they were talking about were Israelites, man. These were Jews, but these were the ones being called Gentiles, who grew up without the law and the customs and things of that nature. So that's why they were given a lighter way to prove themselves and to follow from the apostles themselves through a letter that Paul delivered, you see, along with other men. All right. So that those Gentile Israelites could, come to the truth the proper way. All right. So the door's not shut on them. This is the way that they should follow, so they can come and find the truth. All right. But you are the circumcision. You already know the law, so you know right from wrong. You, as Scripture always say, right? We always quote that one. You're supposed to be a light to the Gentiles. You see, but they judge themselves unworthy. So you have to understand. You always had on both sides of the coin, all right, or on both sides, all right. You have faithful believers of the circumcision and on the uncircumcision, but of both sides also you had, which both sides also have majority numbers of non-believers from the circumcision and the uncircumcision. So it always boils down to what the remnant, man, those that believed in Yahweh Shah, man, and wanted to follow the truth in the right way. You see? So it says, for they had seen before with him in the city Trophimus in Ephesian, whom they supposed that Paul had brought into the temple, who they didn't know, just supposed, right? So, and this goes back to the false accusation. They really had nothing. If anything they had, it was that. And they can't prove that. And they're going to talk about it. So it says, who also had gone out to profane the temple, whom we took and would have judged according to our law. Yeah, we would have judged according to our law, which basically these demons were trying to put him to death, man. Okay. And they haven't stopped yet. And they're going to continue to try to put Paul to death. Okay. But it says, but the chief captain, Lysias, came upon us and with great violence took him away out of our hands. You see how he makes it sound? With great violence. He took us away out of our hands. All right, no, you were trying to kill this man. And the soldiers came and was like, what's going on? Because remember, they were beating on Paul. They would probably beat him to death had those soldiers not come down and saw the commotion. So when the soldiers came, they kind of dispersed and backed up. All right. So then that's when they carried him up, they got on the steps towards the castle and so on and so forth. All that we read in the previous lesson, right? So yeah, it says, and the soldiers, Lysias came upon us with, and remember that came about because Paul's nephew came and told what some of the matter was, because those wicked Israelites took the oath that they wouldn't eat until they killed Paul. And he told him what the matter was. All right. So they delivered Paul, out of that situation. It says, and with great violence took him away out of our hands, commanding his accusers to come unto thee, by examining of whom thyself mayest take knowledge of all these things whereof we accuse him. So he's saying that, hey, if you just check this man out, you're going to come to the same conclusion that we come to, that he's guilty. All right. So it says, and the Jews also assented, saying that these things were so. Let's see what the word assented means. Yep, to place to resolve, determine, to make an arrangement, gauge. Look, there it is. Agree to, right? They agree. See how this read in the NLT, all right? Because we know we had those wicked Pharisees there as well, man. All right, what's that? Verse 9. So it says, then other Jews chimed in, declaring that everything Tertullus said was true. The governor then mentioned, so basically they were lying, just like they did with Yahushua, man. They brought lies up against them. They were lying, all right? They really didn't have true evidence against Paul. The governor then motioned for Paul to speak. Paul said, I know, sir, that you have been a judge of Jewish affairs for many years, so I gladly present my defense before you. You can quickly discover that I arrived in Jerusalem no more than 12 days ago to worship at the temple. My accusers never found me arguing with anyone in the temple, nor stirring up a riot in any synagogue or on the streets of the city. These men cannot prove the things they accuse me of doing. All right? Let's get that. I want to get the AMP. Let me read that, the AMP. But Lysias came with a great force and took him out of our hands and ordered his accusers to come before you. Yeah, remember that was at the end of that other chapter, right? He says, no, if this man is guilty of anything, then you bring your accusers and your accusations before this court of law. All right. But for now, we're going to take this man away because you're trying to kill him. By interrogating him yourself concerning all these matters, you will be able to determine the truth about these things with which we charge him. All right. So you see how confident they were in just knowing that Paul was going to get persecuted. All right. They were confident in it. It says the Jews also joined in the attack, declaring and insisting that these things were so. When the governor nodded for him to speak, Paul answered, knowing that for many years you have been a judge over this nation, I make my defense cheerfully and with good courage. Because Paul knew that they had false accusations against him. As you can easily verify, and this goes back to what we mentioned before. All right. Yahushua told him that he was going to have to testify again, right? Here it is. It says, as you can easily verify, it has been no more than 12 days since I went up to Jerusalem to worship. Neither in the temple, nor in the synagogues, nor elsewhere in the city did they find me carrying on a discussion or disputing with anybody or causing a crowd to gather. Nor can they present evidence to you. You see, there it is. Nor can they present evidence to you to prove what they now bring against me. You see, they have no evidence, man. But I confess this to you, that according to the way which they call a divisive and heretical, right? Remember, because Paul's teaching, off the beaten path, right? Everybody's just followed the Pharisees and listen to this, listen to that, and blah 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 blah. All right, but the true followers of Yahushua are going to teach Yahushua. We don't care, right? What did the apostles say? We ought to obey God rather than men. I believe it was Peter that stood up and said that, but there were other apostles there. We ought to obey God rather than men. I believe that was Peter and John, if I'm correct. At least Peter and John. If there was more, I can't really remember. I believe it was at least Peter and John. All right. But we ought to obey God rather than men, because they were trying to say, hey, you know what? Since we ain't got nothing against you, don't teach in that name of Yahushua. They just want to stop that. All right. And the same thing goes today for our people. It's our people more than the heathens, man, who want to stop us teaching in the name of Yahushua. That's the main ones you see coming up on the internet who always got something to say. You see? Our own people, man. You see? So it says, which they call a divisive and heretical sect, I do worship and serve the God. And when we went to those definitions, so it's beautiful how that comes up. All right, the God of our fathers, confidently believing everything that is in accordance with the law of Moses and that is written in the prophets. All right, so he's saying that I follow things the right way. All right, I'm not going off. Okay, having the same hope in the Most High, which these men cherish themselves, that there shall certainly be a resurrection of the dead, both of the righteous and of the wicked. It says, in view of this, I also do my best and strive always to have a clear conscience before the Most High and before men. Goes to show you that Paul was saying that, hey, I'm doing things the right way, because remember, he told before his accounts about, him persecuting Israelites, but then Yahushua handpicked him to come into the truth. And ever since then, he's been making up for that, man, knowing that he persecuted the Lord's people, that the Lord is real, all right? Who these Pharisees don't really believe in as being the Messiah, he's actually real, all right? And I know that experience firsthand now for myself. So I'm going to do everything in my power to teach Yahushua, you see, and teach the truth. And he did that. It says, in view of this, I also do my best and strive always to have a clear conscience before the Most High and before me. Also just saying, even if you want to think of it in a low level ethical sense, right? He wasn't doing anything that'll get him in violation or, get the ministry blame and so on and so forth, right? Now, after several years, I came to Jerusalem to bring to my people charitable contributions and offerings. They found me in the temple presenting these offerings after I had undergone the rites of purification without any crowd or uproar. But there were some Jews from the west coast province of Asia Minor. This is what we just read in Acts 21, who ought to have been here before you to present their charges if they had anything against me. You see? And this is no different, man, from like today, all right, in the court. Someone accused you of something. And it actually happened to me. I can actually use a real life situation, all right, dealing with this scripture here, man. Because I think about it now. Actually, I was on probation at this time, right? And so it's some demon, all right? Straight up Edomite, all right? Some redneck Edomites, right? Some old lady in particular, all right? So accused us of stealing something, all right? And so we ended up getting, obviously, locked up, all right? Had to go to court, and the lady and whoever else, right? They never showed up. You know why? Because they were lying. All right. They were lying. And the reason why we got locked up in the first place is because they actually called a sheriff who was also a redneck who they knew. So, and you know how it is with Esau, man. They got friends of the family and stuff like that. They got a little pull, all right, because the system is for them. Okay. So they called someone who they knew would be able to cuff us and take us away. All right. And so we had to go to court, and they never showed up. And what happens when that happens? The judge throws the case out because someone is accusing you of something with no evidence, and they're not here to even speak on behalf of what they're accusing you of. So the judge is going to throw the case out, and that's exactly what happened. And so this is what Paul is leaning towards here. Like if I'm accused of something, where are my accusers who said this thing about me? I was doing this, did that, or said this, or whatever the case may be. Where are my accusers? Instead, you just have random people here. So if I'm guilty of something, why are not my accusers here accusing me? Especially because you're saying that this matter is so important. Then why are not my accusers here? See, that's why we read before in those other scriptures, man. The Lord's going to give you a mouth speak of wisdom that your adversary should not be able to gain. See, no resist. It doesn't matter at the end of the day because the Lord, if you're of the Lord's elect, he's got you covered, man. Let's keep going. It says, or else let these men tell what crime they found me guilty of. You see, let these men tell them because my accusers are not here. So let these men tell what am I guilty of? Tell them. All right. When I stood before the council, the Sanhedrin, the Jewish high court, other than for this one statement, which I had shouted out as I stood among them, for the resurrection of the dead, I am on trial before you today. You see? Now, if I'm correct, he's referring to when he said that the Lord would smite him or something like that. He was speaking to one of the Pharisees, all right, of the council. And he says, I didn't know that he was, such and such and so on and forth. I believe that's what he's referring to there. So it says, but also then he says, for the resurrection of the dead, I am on trial before you today. All right. And this also goes into what he was teaching. All right. We teach Yahushua crucified and risen from the dead. Okay. Because that really happened. Verse 22 says, but Felix, having a rather accurate understanding about the way, put them off, saying, when Lysias the commander comes down, I will decide your case. All right. Then he ordered the centurion to keep Paul in custody, but to let him have some freedom. And he told the centurion not to stop any of his friends from providing for his needs. Right. So he had is lenient on Paul. Okay. We can go back to the KJV. Probably should finish this off in the other. Let me see where it was. Okay, yep. Right around here. Let's start at 19. We ought to have, back in the KJV, been here before thee, and object if they had aught against me. Or else let these same here say, if they have found any evil doing in me, while I stood before the council. Except it be for this one voice, that I cried standing among them, touching the resurrection of the dead. I am called in question by you this day. So it was more so just centered around that. All right, the resurrection of the dead. All right. But yeah, because remember, when he was there, they were all, in an uproar after Paul mentioned, that of the resurrection, right? Because then it separated the council, because you had Pharisees and you had Sadducees. So the Sadducees didn't believe in any of those different things, including the resurrection of Yahushua or any dead. All right. So the Pharisees were like, hold on, maybe an angel spoke to Paul. And so that put both sides against one another. And remember, this is one council. Though you had Pharisees and Sadducees, this was one council, but it divided the council because of the different views of each. You see, that's what we went into I don't think we read it, but it was there in the definition. Sect, all right? You had Pharisees, Sadducees, and then you had the sect of the Nazarenes, which are the followers of Yahushua. That's the true way, okay? So it says, and when Felix heard these things, having more perfect knowledge of that way, he deferred them and said, when Lysias, the chief captain, shall come down, I will know the uttermost of your matter. We can get the word deferred. I don't really need to. All right, to put back or off. All right, delay, postpone. You see. So it says, and he commanded a centurion to keep Paul and to let him have liberty, and that he should and that he should forbid none of his acquaintance to minister or come unto him. All right, so he was allowed to. That won't happen today. Not in today's courts. That wouldn't happen today. But it was a little bit different back then. All right, so it says, and after certain days, and it's almost no different than like someone who's like out on bail. All right, similar to that. Not exactly the same, but it just gives you a good example, right? Like with someone who's out on bail. So then they're not up just sitting in jail. They're out free. All right, but they can't go here. They can't go there. They can't leave the city. All right, or we're gonna think you're trying to flee, which if that be the case, even if you're not trying to flee, but you just leave and you get caught leaving, it's gonna look like you're trying to run from this case, which makes you look guilty. All right, so you get the point. So it says, and after certain days, when Felix came with his wife Drusilla, which was a Jewess, he sent for Paul and heard him concerning the fate in the Hamashiach. All right, now I don't think we went into Felix. I believe we've gone into Felix before. All right, Felix, a Roman. All right, this was an Israelite, a Roman procurator of Judea, and appointed by the Emperor Claudius in AD 53. He ruled the province in a mean. Yeah, we read this before about Felix. I'm not going to read this again. See, it's mentioned down there. The palace prevailed with Emperor Nero to spare him. The wife of Felix was Drusilla, the daughter of Herod Agrippa first. All right, so I believe. Let me see if I go back to this. I was going to get the NLT. Several days later, Felix came with his wife Drusilla, who was a Jewess. He sent for Paul and listened to him to talk about faith in Hamashiach Yahushua. Right? Why is that? Let's see what the NLT says. A few days later, Felix came back with his wife Drusilla, who was Jewish, sending for Paul. They listened as he told them about faith in Hamashiach Yahushua. As he reasoned with them about righteousness and self-control and the coming day of judgment, Felix became frightened. Go away for now, he replied. When it is more convenient, I'll call for you again. He also hoped that Paul would bribe him, so he sent for him quite often and talked with him. Yeah, because when you go back to what we just reading there, all right, it's talked about somewhere in there. I believe it mentions the bribes, right? So this is what he wanted. All right, he wanted bribes from him. It's about the dollar bill. All right. As a matter of fact, we might have to go back and read that again. It says, after 2 years went by in this way, Felix was 2 years, man. 2 years him doing this, hoping and looking for bribes from Paul. After 2 years went by in this way, Felix was succeeded by Porcius Festus, and because Felix wanted to gain favor with the Jewish people, he left Paul in prison. So that's what he cared about. No, he was no different from those Pharisees, man. It's about me, all right? It's about me. Me. I want some money and want some, little fame in here, whatever, all right? So let's get here Felix, right? And go back in here again. So it makes more sense of what we were reading there. So it says he ruled the province in a mean, cruel, and profligate manner, which basically means reckless manner. His period of office was full of troubles and seditions. Paul was brought before Felix at Caesarea. He was remanded in prison and kept there 2 years in hopes of extorting money from him. You see, at the end of that time, Porcius Festus was appointed to supersede Felix, who, on his return to Rome, was accused by the Jews in Caesarea and would have suffered the penalty due to his atrocities had not his brother Pallas prevailed with the Emperor Nero to spare him. The wife of Felix was Drusilla, daughter of Herod Agrippa I, who was his third wife and whom he persuaded to leave her by her husband and marry, which was wicked. All right, you made a woman leave her husband to be with you. But anyways, that's not the point. So yeah, he was looking for bribes and things of that nature from Paul. Two whole years he did this, man. All right. It says and he reasoned, and as he reasoned of righteousness, as a matter of fact, and another thing to point out, Yahweh Shai is always interesting, okay, to Israelites and sometimes even to heathens, man. But hearing about Yahweh Shai is always interesting, if you notice. It says, and after certain days, when Felix came with his wife Drusilla, which was a Jewess, he sent for Paul and heard him concerning the faith in Hamashiach. And as he reasoned of righteousness, temperance, and judgment to come, Felix trembled, you see, and answered, go thy way for this time. When I have a convenient season, I will call for thee. All right. It terrified him because that's what the truth does to these, especially these heathens, man. Terrifies them. He hoped also that money should have been given him of Paul, that he might loose him. Wherefore he sent for him the often, right, a lot of time, and often, 2 years, remember, he did this over and over and over for 2 years, and communed with them. But after 2 years, Porcius Festus came into Felix's room, and Felix, willing to show the Jews a pleasure, left Paul bound. All right, so that's the end of Acts chapter 24. Very exciting chapter. All right, and we're still moving forward. So we're going to end it at that, though. Lord, will you edify? To next time, Yahshua, I'm going to say shalom.